the caveat to marketing that I always like to talk about is
They're not there to show off your property.
no, you don't stand out if you're the same as everybody.
Get the good photos, man.
Yeah.
Think about the
100%.
competition.
It's a major mistake. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Moore, and we're back with Mr. Jake Shehee.
How you doing?
Producer Jake, marketing expert Jake.
Yes, sir.
Content manager Jake, making us all look good online. So, guys, we're back with our Whiskey Wednesday episodes where we're going to dive into some specific topics. And Jake's got a full agenda of questions. I guess we have some questions sent in.
Yeah.
And what's our main topic for today? We're going to dive into.
The name of this episode is How to Get Your Unfair Share. We're going to be talking about marketing, the different stages, awareness, the consideration and conversion, and then, of course, leading it up into the loyalty, how to keep those people. But we're diving all into the marketing aspects of today's episode.
Love it.
So how important is marketing, getting that awareness?
Okay, one, marketing is obviously critical when you're in a business when you have to get people in and out of your property on a regular basis. And so the goal of marketing is really three things as we go through this conversation to kind of talk about, and I'm sure we'll touch on all of them at different points of the conversation. But one, marketing is about attracting a customer. It's about converting customers, and it's about retaining customers.
Love it.
And so at the end of the day, you have to think about, what am I trying to do with marketing? Now, the caveat to marketing that I always like to talk about is a lot of people think if they're struggling, it's because they don't know how to market or their marketing needs to be up in the game. And I will tell you that 90% of the properties I audit, their struggles have nothing to do with marketing, right? Their struggles have to do with not having a good property in the right location or having a property that they just have, it's not, they didn't create a unique experience. They have no target audience that they set the experience up for. Because think about marketing when it comes to a business, or think about an automobile. The property itself might be the engine and the drivetrain and everything else. And then creating that unique experience is the tires and the systems in that car. Marketing is like the pretty paint job in the body, right? It makes everything look good, ties it all together. But if you have a really great paint job on a really crappy car and doesn't have an engine in it, it's not going to do very well. And so, so keep that in the back of your mind. I don't know all the exact questions you've got tied into marketing, but I want you to remember it's either about attracting customers, converting customers, or retaining customers. And it's also the last piece of a puzzle that needs to have already been built. Think if you had a fire pit outside, and you have a stack of wood. And if that fire is already burning, and you have really good marketing, it's like taking gasoline and pouring it on the fire. It does, explodes, it maximizes that fire, and everybody's happy, right? But what if you had a fire and it wasn't lit and it wasn't burning, and I took that same gasoline and I poured it on the wood? What happens? Nothing. Not a dang thing. Right. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind when it comes to marketing. Is some of the things I'm going to hopefully answer when you've got some of these questions coming up.
All right. I love that. That's an interesting analogy about the fire. I like that one. Starting off with our first point here, I do want to give some shout outs to people that I think are doing some really good marketing, at least when it comes to social media. Shout out to At the Helm and Lyrical Lounge _Nashville. These are our members, and I think they're just killing it on social media, especially on Instagram. But okay, so say you already have the automobile is built, the fire is lit. They went through the Vodyssey process. They have the beautiful property that stands out. And now they're thinking, okay, how do I get more eyes on this? I want to market it. Of course, you can go look at the Helm and Lyrical Lounge and kind of see what they're doing. But when it comes to social media, pages and really leaning into that, or even we get a question a lot sent in about letting influencers stay at your property. Giving a discount, someone that has a big following. What are your thoughts on that? Is that worth it?
Most of the time, no. It sounds really good. It sounds really fun. There's a lot of people that say, hey, listen, I'll show you how to get influencers in your property and stay in for free, and you trade them for all this exposure. The fact of the matter is, most of the time, those influencers and their audience is not part of your target audience. Now, one thing I don't And I have not seen very many big influencers. And we've had big influencers stay at our properties. We've had a lot of big influencers stay at different Vodyssey member properties because they're like, I don't know if I'm buying, everything Shawn's selling right now, and telling me not to have an influencer that has, hundreds of thousands of followers, maybe 1 million followers, and that they don't convert. The issue with the influencers coming in and staying at your property is they want to stay for free. They're using it for content. They're putting it out there, and they're trying to entertain their audience. They're not really necessarily doing anything to convert that traffic into paid customers for you. And so an influencer, a lot of times, they get a nice property to stay in, but it goes away. They also, a lot of really big influencers, you have to think about how consumption happens online. It's really fast, right? Swipe, 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 swipe. Maybe I stop, maybe I give them a like, and then I keep going, right? And so when you're trying to attract customers, you have to have them stay long enough to convert, right? The average time on somebody that actually makes a booking and how long they actually stay searching for that perfect property to stay in their destination they're going to go visit is 6 hours.
Dude, that's so long.
It's a long time.
That's a long time.
That's a lot of posts online, right? That's a lot of Instagram swipes or whatever your influencer is doing. And so even though they might have really good pictures and really good content, their audience is not necessarily really they're probably interested in anything but booking a property right now, then and there. And so you don't see a lot of influencers that stay in properties convert to a whole bunch of bookings. Now, one reason I love influencers though, is I love talking to these influencers because when we are trying to attract and convert customers, guess how we do it?
How?
With pictures.
There we go.
We have to have the right pictures. One thing that influencers do a really good job of is they give and are able to articulate an experience. What property owners are not very good at doing is articulating an experience. And so what we do is we say, hey, listen, we'd love to have you stay at our property. And I look at their profile and I see what kind of photos and what kind of, posts that they do. And if it would be congruent to the type of photos that I want of my property, I'm going to say, hey, why don't you come stay at our property? Why don't you do your post? Maybe give me a post. I don't tell them not to post, but give us a shout out or two. But while you're there, while you're getting photos, can I get X amount of photos? So I'll negotiate a certain number of photos of them experiencing the property. And now all of a sudden, most of them are, now all of a sudden we get this photo shoot in exchange for them staying in our property. And then what I can do is I can take that photo shoot and now I can use it in my own marketing and on my own websites. And so that when somebody is searching for those properties, that helps me do a better job converting down the line.
I love that. Okay. So let's touch on a couple of things here. I think you're totally right when it comes to the influencer target audience. Like, just because an influencer who's 25 is going to make a YouTube video at your property, that doesn't mean that audience wants to now go stay at that property just because that person was there. I totally agree with that. Another thing that I thought was a really good point is the influencer wants to make content for themselves and their audience. They're not there to show off your property. It's not like a HGTV show. They're making content. So what about, so let's kind of flip it to there. What about like staycation? You get someone reaches out for staycation. We love that property. Can we film something there? How about that?
A TV show coming in. We've got a number of members who've been on staycation, actually, that specific show. And again, that's going to be a more or a higher likelihood that you will actually convert a customer to, because guess why? They're staying there longer, right? They're watching a 30-minute episode about your property. Maybe they've got a 15-minute spot on your property there. So the more time somebody is exposed to what you have to offer, the easier it is to start to convert them down the line. Again, though, that becomes every single one of our members that have been featured on staycation or anywhere else. They use that episode. They use that in their marketing. And so that influencer that's staying there that wants to show the lifestyle that they lead, right? That's why they want to stay in these places. They want to go show off their lifestyle to their audience, and it's entertaining for their audience. But we're trying to sell an experience. And so that content still helps us, even though they're showing off their lifestyle, how much fun they had or what they're doing at a property. That helps us in our marketing to say, hey, that you could do the same thing. And many times they just do a really good job of it.
That's beautiful. Okay, so this leads into our next one. You're making your property stand out is its own marketing in a way, right? Could you kind of agree with that, disagree with that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So one, that is marketing, right? How do you attract somebody? You have to stand out in a crowd, right?
Love
and
it.
so when you're trying to stand out in a crowd, what do you offer that's different? You don't stand out if you're the same as everybody.
Totally agree. Love
and
it.
so we're saying in marketing, but this is where the setup phase and creating a unique experience for a very specific target audience. And then like that has to be done. That does 95% of the heavy lifting in the marketing side. And then the marketing comes in and we make sure that we are able to articulate that, right? We're able to take the right photos and the right point of view and articulate the experience. That's the only way you're going to stand out. There's things that when it comes to standing out, we have to be able to articulate a unique experience. Sometimes that has to do with the property. The property can have things about it that create this great experience, right? But in short-term rentals, proximity does matter, right? They're coming to to vacation in an area or visit an area for a reason. How far away are you? What is your proximity to the major profit drivers, the major attractions that they're going to see? So that makes a difference, right? That's part of the property. Where's it located?
Right.
Two, what amenities does the property have?
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh, well, maybe I just add a hot tub. Maybe I just add a theater room. Maybe I do some outdoor space. Whatever it is, those are all great amenities. And you do the research and decide what your target audience wants. And so what kind of amenities does that property have? But then the most important thing and the biggest wild card, because there's a lot of properties in good locations. There's a lot of properties with good amenities. The big wild card is, how are you bringing all that to life? How are you able to do that? We do it with what we call lifestyle photos. They're very expensive photography. They are our marketing assets. So we are willing to invest into them because they're basically our 24/7 sales rep. They allow us to attract and convert customers because we don't typically get on the phone and talk to people when they're booking our property. The photos have to do the talking for us. And so then what we do is we say, okay, based on the property itself, the proximity to the profit drivers, the amenities the property has, the target audience now, and how did we bring it to life? What did we bring to life in the property in the area so that they know what that experience is going to be when they come visit our property? Then we say, okay, now I'm going to intentionally go articulate that with the right photos, lifestyle photos. If you're going to do this, don't get real estate photos, get lifestyle photos, and ultimately be able to articulate to that customer.
Right.
And that's how you stand out.
I'm loving it. Dude, I am absolutely loving this. Okay. This bleeds perfectly in. I mean, you segued it fantastically into a question that was sent in. Send us your questions to support@vodyssey.com. If you have any, we'll happily answer it on the show. Here it is. You ready?
Yep.
Would it be better to launch now with cell phone pics to get some booking/revenue coming in ASAP, or be patient and wait a little longer for the best photos to command higher prices and make the most of the OTA algorithm's new listing boost? Now, of course, I want to hear your opinion, but let me just after reading this, I felt some type of way. I was a little frustrated because I was thinking to myself, no matter what you're selling, even if you're selling an old chair on Facebook Marketplace, you're going to post the best photos you can to sell the product, right?
Yeah.
You want to sell something. You wouldn't post the blurry photo. So why, can you explain on why do you want to use the best photos, but kind of shed some light on this, please, because it's frustrating a little bit.
Yeah. And one, we appreciate all questions.
Right.
And so know that we answer these with all the love in the world because we want you to succeed.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is it's frustrating as a marketer because when you read it, it makes no sense.
Right.
Do I post? But as in reality, think about it from where the question is coming from. I just spent a lot of time and effort buying a property. I spent a lot of money buying a property. That mortgage is going to start to come due pretty soon. And I got to start making payments. And I start to look at the list of to-dos that I have to get this property, set up. I got to schedule these photo shoots. I got to get all this stuff put together on my listing. And all that takes time. And so as an investor, a lot of people literally are sitting in this same situation saying, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go just hurry and get some photos, get some money coming in. I know it's not going to be great, but I want some money coming in before I do all of these things you're talking about. It's a major, major
Right.
Major mistake. And anybody that will tell you different, I will very strongly disagree with them.
Right.
And because we've seen it over and over and over again. And even the question mentioned that they're going to waste that extra boost they get from the OTAs. And we
Right.
talked about this many times on the podcast, but the fact of the matter is those OTAs are judging you right out of the gate. And they're going to say, hey, listen, I'm deciding in the first couple weeks whether you're a property that converts our customers. Are you able to attract and convert our customers? And if you are, I know that I'm going to make money with you. And so I will continue to give you better exposure. I'm also judging you on how good you are delivering that experience. And so you better be getting a 5-star delivery and create this, deliver the experience at a high level. Those two things, those two boxes need to be checked off, but they need to be checked off early. They're not, because what happens is if you check those boxes off early, the OTA algorithm then ranks you and says, yes, we are willing to put you in front of our customers. Yes, you are not a problem child. I don't have to deal with customer service because you do a great job delivering the experience. And so I'm going to keep you on the top shelf. I'm going to keep you on the first pages. Right. And ultimately, then you start to really, cook with peanut oil. We're saying, okay, now I'm really got something going here because I've got the exposure. I can convert customers, attract them. I can keep doing it. It's a rinse and repeat deal. Right. If you don't, the issue is when you get buried and you get put on the back shelf and you get put on the bottom shelves, even after you do everything that you're supposed to do right, then it's very, very difficult to attract anybody because nobody's seeing it.
I mean, that's making me nervous. My hands are sweating just thinking about your property getting buried underneath.
It's hard.
That'd be hard.
So if you are buried, now it's not the end of the world. You can come back, but it's a way harder climb than it is if you just wait. And you will leave more money on the table by doing that and trying to get out sooner rather than later. And it's the opposite of what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is start to make some money. And then you think you're going to get that extra money. What's going to happen is you're going to make some money for too long. And then all of a sudden you get buried. Then it's even hard to make any money. It's even hard to make that some money that you were trying to make, let alone the good money that you ultimately had in mind with the property and with the lifestyle photos that you're hoping to get.
Yeah.
And so by doing that, and that strategy buries people for a long time. And sometimes it takes 3-6 months to get out of that. And you leave a lot of money on the table. So I really, really encourage people. One, if you are buying a property or you already have a property, get that process started sooner rather than later and try to, if you're under contract on a property, don't wait to start planning this stuff out until after you close. And if you do, it is what it is. You have to say, hey, listen, it's going to take me 2 to 3 months to get this all ready to go and set up the right way. And I'm going to leave, I'm probably not going to make any money during that time unless you've got people that you can just kind of, maybe local classified, some of those things. I tell people to do that sometimes. Don't go on the big OTAs though, because what you will do is that first impression is everything, right? And so if your first impression is bad, sometimes that algorithm does not give you any favor anytime soon because they're just going to bury you.
Man, that's okay. I have a kind of like a double question here from that.
Okay.
First part of the question, does the OTA, the algorithm, hurt you in any way based off the amount of times you change your photos? And I ask that because should someone have the lifestyle photography of, you say you're like a cabin, you have a cabin in Georgia, maybe it'll snow. So you want the pictures with the snow falling in the fireplace, and then you want the ones with the beautiful changing of the leaves. Does it hurt you if you change those photos? And should you have multiple?
You should, absolutely. Okay. Especially on a seasonal property like the example you gave, it's really good to have seasonal photos of a property that goes through multiple seasons. And so you show and you can articulate what it's going to be like in the wintertime. Then you show and articulate what it's going to be like in the summertime. Then you show and articulate what it's going to be like in the fall. And what you do is you usually change them based on the average lead booking time in your area. If people are booking 60 or 90 days in advance, I'm going to change my fall photos in the middle of the summer because people are booking the fall in the middle of the summer, right? And so if I'm in the wintertime, middle of the winter, I'm going to start changing to spring and summer because that's when my spring and summer is booking. Now, what if I have a property that only books, 14 days, 30 days out, then I'm going to wait longer to change those. I might not put my fall photos up until a month before the leaves change, right? And so because my average lead time is shorter in that area. And so you do that, you base the change based on the average lead time in your area, and you think, okay, what time of year are they booking for right now? And it's usually, sometimes it's the actual time of year you're in, sometimes it's further out. And so you're looking to that next season to change those photos. And the algorithm doesn't penalize you. And if anything, it helps you, because the algorithm is looking majorly on how you're attracting and converting customers. That's going to help you convert customers. When you convert customers, they're going to keep moving you up and up and up in the rankings. And if you're already on page 1, they're just going to keep you there.
That was really wise about the lead time. I love that. When it comes to articulating the property,
right?
What about, I would think this is the wrong term here, the caption, I guess, or the title of your property. What does that look like? Do you put emojis in it? Do you put symbols in it? Do you set capital letters, new property? What's kind of the best way to articulate that?
Yeah, one, your headline of the property is going to be, yes, yes, and yes. Right?
Okay.
You're going to test different things. You're going to look at the market. If everybody's using emojis, I probably wouldn't use emojis. I'm going to try to be different. Right. And so one thing you never want to do is put 3-bed, 2-bath in the area. They already know what that is. You don't need to put, you don't need to put your area. You don't need to put the details about the property. They already know it's a 3-bed, 2-bath. Don't waste that. Tell them about some of the key features of the property, some of the key amenities. You might, if you're trying to say it's in a good area, why don't you say I'm 5-minute walk to the beach, or we're lakefront and fire pit, hot tub. Like you put those things that are going to, the things that people are attracted to. But when it comes to emojis and using emojis, yes, they can work really well. Sometimes they're overused in areas. Right. And so we don't do them. And so our judgment on emojis is, what is everybody else doing? And we do the opposite.
I love it. Okay. That totally makes sense. I like that. Now we've attracted, we've converted, and now we're retaining the customer. Right now, this is going to be, I don't want to spoil, but one of my favorite things that you talk about is the top of mind campaign, not to be annoying. Man, I think it's one of the best pieces of advice. But okay, so let's kind of move into this portion, building that book of business. Okay, what is that like? Do you need your own website? We had those Airbnb changes lately or recently. What do you think about this? Should you be doing these things still?
Yes. You should. You need to think about, and this is something that most hosts do a really bad job of. Okay. Even if they get good at marketing and they get good at attracting and they get good at converting, most hosts don't do a very good job of retaining customers and getting repeat customers back. Right. Because they're so focused on eating what they kill, right? When's the next booking coming in? How am I going to do it? It is so much easier and less expensive to get a happy customer to come back than it is to try to attract and convert a new customer. Yet we never spend the time to do it. A lot of hosts are they're like, maybe I don't know, or maybe I just assume that I read the review and they said, hey, I got a 5-star review. We can't wait to come back. A lot of hosts read those and they just assume the customers are going to always come back and they're going to be able to find them. And I always tell hosts, go find your own property on Airbnb or Vrbo, and you know what you're looking for, let alone a guest that stayed 6 months ago or a year ago, right? And so it's really important to make sure that you stay top of mind. But there's a nuance to that, because if you're just constantly sending out stuff with discounts and last minute stays and book my property now, and hey, listen, if you come back, I'll give you this, this, and this. And it's just constantly, hey, book now, book now, book now. And that's the only messaging you get. Well, after you send a couple of those out, guess what you get? Unsubscribe button. They're going to hit the unsubscribe button and say, okay, enough's enough. And so you want to be really thoughtful about the top of mind campaign. And the way we do it is, we know that they came to the area, they loved our cabin, they liked the area. Most people are creatures of habit. We typically visit the same areas on a regular basis. And so we're interested in those areas. So what we do is we find local events, we find different restaurants, and we highlight those. And so our top of mind campaign is a monthly newsletter that highlights different things to do at different times of the year, and how they can pack, and how they can, avoid lines, or how they can avoid, or where's some of the local spots that all the tourists don't go. And so we just tell them cool things about the area, right?
Right.
things that are going on, restaurants, hikes, activities, whatever it is, the things that we love to do in the area, they're going to most likely be interested in as well. And then, so it's a very indirect sell, because guess what? The newsletter is always sponsored by my property, right? Okay, this newsletter is sent out from Shawn and Teresa at Lakeside Treehouse, or it's the Stargazer down in St. George, or wherever it is, and we're going to send out these newsletters. But they're just really cool things about the area on a regular basis, and very few people do it, and very few people take the time to do it. And it is our number one thing that helps us be able to get those people to come back, because they know how to find us.
Man,
that's what it comes down to.
I'm loving that, because to me, it feels like you're not selling me your property.
Right.
You're selling me the area. And if I enjoyed my stay there the first time, right, then I know I already like that area. And now you're telling me, oh, there's going to be a festival, there's going to be this thing. I go, I like that area. I had a great time at that property. Right. He's not giving me the discount. He's not, whatever, annoying me with all this stuff all the time.
Right.
It's a great subtle way. I think that's a fantastic way to do that.
And the area can sell, it's going to sell itself. Like when we stay top of mind, we did one that had a little local concert. Somebody's coming in playing, and we send it out, and we got a direct booking from it. And they're like, oh man, we loved your property. We had no idea they were coming into town, and they were one of their favorite bands. And and so they're like, we booked it for the weekend, and we're so excited. But they didn't even know they were coming to town. So they were super excited to see it, hear about it. They're one of their favorite local bands, or I can't remember who it was. It was nobody that I knew. Right. And so I don't know if it was local. Maybe it was just different genre, but it was we just happened to highlight it at one of the vineyards. We were highlighting the vineyard, but they were having this event, and this band was playing at the vineyard, and they were like, brought them in, right? Because they're like, this is awesome. We love these guys, and and get a direct booking from it. And so it'll just sell itself, because you don't need to sell your property. The area will sell itself, and they already had a good experience at your property. And so they appreciate knowing different things about the area, but they also appreciate that the properties, on the newsletter, at the bottom of the newsletter, every single newsletter, if you're going to come back, we'd love to have you back, type of that's all it says. But it's just kind of a constant at the end of the newsletter. It just says that. And so it works really well. It's something that we have not been able to beat or do anything different besides that it seems to have better results. And so just staying top of mind and making it easy for them to find you.
I love that. Okay. We skipped over this, and I would like to cover this one right here. When it comes to SEO, Google ads, any kind of ads other than just like social media posting, what's your take on that? And if someone decides they want to run down this road, is there a certain amount of percentage they should be putting towards that? Or is there a certain cost you think, do not go over this? Anything like that?
Yeah. So for us, I like paid ads. They're super predictable for us in the way that we do them. We're averaging on our across the board with the portfolios of properties that we have running paid ads, an 8-to-1 return on ad spend. It's really good. Every dollar we put in, we get $8 back. However, there's a limit to it, because our inventory is limited. We only have 30 days a month that we can actually sell, right? We only have 30 nights every single month that we can actually book our property. And most people are only booking in a lot of markets 2 weeks to 30 days out. And so we don't have that many nights to sell. It's not even like we're constantly selling 365 days a year. We're really working with, 30 to 45 nights in the near future that we're trying to sell. And so that's why there's a limit. We don't suggest people spend more than $15 a day. Usually the campaigns per property are going to be between $5 and $15 a day, $5, $10, or $15. And it all depends on the amount of traffic that we have, how far out they're booking. If they do book a little bit further out in advance, you can get away with about $15. If it's a short lead time in your market, you're really wasting money if you're spending $15 a day. Sometimes $5 to $10 a day is all you need. And because that's the amount of traffic or the amount of inventory you have to sell to that traffic. And so I like paid traffic because it's predictable. We get good feedback on it. The free traffic, organic traffic, all of that stuff is great, but there's more work involved in it. You have to constantly be posting. You have to stay like you're always, like you mentioned, a couple of our members and those properties that do good job with social media posting and online and on Instagram. They have to be doing it on a regular basis. Right. So it's a lot more time consuming than paid traffic is. So I prefer paid traffic because I don't have to spend the time to continue to post on Instagram.
Right. I love that. I love that. I mean, today it was an amazing episode. I think, what are we at? 30 minutes right now, 29. Nice. So
perfect.
Decide on your target audience, create that personal experience, get the good photos, man.
Yeah.
Think about 100%. The competition. You're competing against other platform, other people. Come on now. We want to be at the top.
Right.
The top of mind campaign, discussed it all. Anything else that we're missing?
No,
I don't think so.
Good. Nope. Just always remember, good marketing doesn't solve the problems of a bad property and a bad experience. And so make sure that if you are running down the marketing road, that those other two things are dialed in first.
Right. Love it.
Okay. All awesome, right. Guys. Well, listen, we'll wrap it up today. We always appreciate you spending your time with us. We know it's valuable. If you got any, and you like these conversations, you got any value out of it, you know somebody else that might, share the show. Those things help us. If you have more than 30 seconds, like it or review it on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Final, most important thing that I ask you at the end of every episode. Pick that one thing you can do today. Start building that life you don't want to take a vacation from. Cheers, my friends. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website?
Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodyssey.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.